Hi, welcome back. This is the segment where we do some of the heavy lifting. We look at the policies of the parties and the issues that they're running on, and we've left the heaviest to last, the economy. Terry, how are your intellectual muscles? What do you reckon about the economy?
Well, to do some heavy lifting on this topic, Graham, I think that economic policy will be very much run by what could be called the Gang of Four, which is Kevin Rudd, Wayne Swan, Julia Gillard and Lindsay Tanner. And I think their instincts are a lot more fiscally conservative than is being understood either by their supporters or by their opponents. And I think they will be looking to lock in significant reductions in average tax rates for Australians. And I think it's possible in the first instance because there is a sense that Howard has lost fiscal discipline over the last 5-6 years. That's a very strong message coming from people who would otherwise be on his own side. I mean, look at regional partnerships, for instance. But over the medium term, it will mean some changes to how services are delivered, and I think there you're going to start to see some hard questions.
Well, how are services going to be delivered?
Well, you'd look at...
how do you cut back on the money that you're taking in and keep the promises you've made to increase services in the economy?
Well, the benchmark for a new federal Labor government is going to be the state Labor governments. Now, they're a mixed bag in terms of what they've achieved.
Well, they're all heavily into deficits now, aren't they?
Well, they didn't get enough money from the government.
Oh, they got the GST. They all signed on to that happily because they were going to get more money out of it. Now they're screaming because they've spent all that pocket money and they want some more from Mr Howard.
Because it didn't turn out to be as good as they thought they were led to believe by the Howard government.
It's actually been better. GST's been higher. The take's been higher from
Graham,
GST.
you tell me anything.
Well, what do you want to talk about, Dale?
Well, I was thinking about the extent to which Mr Howard's tried to scare people off the Labor Party and on the basis of the economy. And, you know, this thing about the boom will end if Labor gets in, the risk of management. And I just loved listening to Bob Hawke the other day in Perth saying, you know, you think the boom will end, it doesn't matter who's in charge, China's still going to need everything.
But isn't that boom time talk? Every boom's going to be different. And I've seen a few booms now in my lifetime and they always end.
Well, I'm sure it will end one day, but maybe not in our lifetime. And I'm sure there are going to be different patterns that are going to happen, but I don't think that the demand that China has made on our, you know, we're just lucky we've got all this stuff under the ground. And I agree with Rudd that we've got to think about what happens when the boom does end, which is why I also think they're really clever to bring in the education and the skills and post-boom, etc.
Isn't Kevin Rudd's answer to what we'll do when the boom ends that we're going to invest pension funds for Asians in Perth and Brisbane? Is that really a credible, forward-thinking economic policy?
I mean, that's a very Liberal Party response about not understanding a great deal about broadband and the digital economy and how funds get moved around all the time and that there's more money to be made out of moving funds than digging stuff out of the ground most of the time.
We're all going to be bankers.
People at Macquarie Bank, yes, absolutely.
So how many people are employed by Macquarie Bank?
Well, I don't know how many people, but you know how much money they make out of it's quite phenomenal, isn't it? I think that there's a whole new way of doing things digitally, and broadband and just the very mention of that puts Labor in a different category and the economy in a different category and post-boom in a different category. All of those things I think are actually taking the edge off Mr Howard's notion about Labor can't manage the economy.
So Kelly, you're looking forward to a never-ending summer? You've never seen a bust, I assume, in your adult life anyway, and you feel that it's just going to keep on going and you'll be happy investing Asian pension funds?
Well, I mean, a question that I certainly have is, like, with the whole interest rate scare campaign, is that something that will actually work?
What?
The Liberal Party scare campaign about interest rates in the Labor Party?
Ching ching.
Is that actually going to work,
ching,
or are people just getting actually sick of it and annoyed?
I think everybody gets sick of saying, you know, but under you they were 22% and under you they were 17%, and everybody I know says, well, I wasn't around for either of those. So, you know, the younger people coming along. So I think it cancels it. And besides, it's so boring.
It's incredibly boring.
It's about, you know, whose fault's this?
Well, it's what all politics is about, isn't it, really?
A bit more sophisticated a lot of the time.
Can I say, you know, if the Liberals had their time again, they may want to have another look at why they went for Go for Growth. For two reasons. One is that the Reserve Bank came in halfway through the campaign and said, whoa, we need to stop some of this growth a little bit. And the way the job market is at the moment, you know, where you can make $100,000 for driving a truck somewhere you can see where they're coming from. But the second thing about growth is that it creates winners and losers. So one person's rising house price asset is another person's greater difficulty of ever getting a first mortgage. And, you know, growth can also mean growing credit card debt and so on. So, you know, without wanting to sound too hair-shirt about it, there is a problem with just saying, you know, preaching the growth mantra at any cost.
But that's been Labor's mantra, hasn't it? I mean, under Hawke and Keating, they said we could have growth without inflation. And they had very similar fiscal discipline priorities to what you're suggesting that Kevin Rudd's going to have.
Well, they engaged in structural adjustment alongside that, and that's where I think education and broadband strike me as two things that the Howard government has had about a decade to get
so
right.
education and broadband will guarantee painless growth. That's the consensus here.
Nothing guarantees painless
Nothing
growth.
guarantees.
Don't try and put words into our mouth. You can just finish up now.
Okay. On that note, we'll just finish up now.